we have an alien presence in our world for 80 years. Here without invitation, not revealing its presence, its activities, or its overall purpose. Conducting clandestine affairs, taking people against their will, and doing all kinds of very different, strange but dangerous things in our world. And the government keeps track of this, of course, the deeper part of the government, not the elected government, of course, but the deeper government that's more permanently entrenched has kept track of this for a very long time and has been very reluctant, to say the least, to disclose what it knows to the public. And I understand this for a number of reasons. I mean, it is trying to back engineer the craft that have crashed. It has all kinds of evidence that has not been revealed either to the Congress, or not much of the Congress, until quite recently perhaps, and certainly not to the American public, or to the world public for that matter. So this is an event that's happening all over the world. Governments all over the world are dealing with this to one degree or another. And some of these governments, such as Russia and China, have their own secret programs to try to back engineer the craft that have been captured or have crashed, and whatever else they can do to understand the nature, strengths, and weaknesses of this foreign, undisclosed presence in our world. In fact, when we talk about things being undisclosed, it's really the alien presence in the world, the non-human intelligence, the NHI. That's what's really not being disclosed in this world, either by itself or by the government of our country, the United States, or any other government that I'm aware of. So we're dealing with a non-disclosed reality at two fronts. One, the NHI, the alien presence in our world today, is not disclosing. Our governments are generally not disclosing, though old documents are released to give evidence that this has been studied for a long time, and it's been a major problem for the security of this country and other countries. So I'd like to make some assertions about that. The first is we are being visited by a non-human intelligence who has been here, as I said, for over 80 years in an active sense. The world has certainly been visited for decades, centuries, and millennia, but we're dealing with a different kind of force, a much greater force, a force that is establishing itself in the world. And we should never think of this as a visitation, because it really is, it's really habitation at this point. 80 years is not a visitation. So being able to discover what this is and what it will mean for our world and for everyone in our world is of the utmost importance. And much has been written about this, said about this, imagined about this. Some people want to see it as a great and wonderful thing, a breakthrough for humanity, while others see it as an intervention, a dangerous intervention for the purpose of takeover eventually. Playing a very long game with 80 years, hiding itself pretty well, except that we see the evidence of its craft increasingly everywhere. The second thing is the defense establishment of this country and other countries know much about this and are obstructing the process of disclosing it. And they have a lot to cover up because they've been lying about it for 80 years. They've been obfuscating it for 80 years, which they're making it unclear, obscure, or unattainable, obfuscation. They have been trying to control it and manage it without the public really knowing about it. And the public is generally so taken up with their own interests and preoccupations or needs that they've made this easier for the deep government to do. But after 80 years, the public needs to know some things about this. And that's the real disclosure. And part of that disclosure will have to come from the government to a certain extent. Not so much the back engineering they're attempting to do to try to offset the presence of these craft or defend ourselves against them, but just the reality that we are being visited by a force that has been doing very threatening activities for all this time. And so that definitely needs to be disclosed, and is still not being disclosed. There's a lot of people in this country and elsewhere who are attempting to make this known and to make this more public. And our Congress, members of the United States Congress, many of them are interested in doing this as well. This recent report from the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, was carried out by its former leader, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, just to make a claim that nothing was really discovered that would indicate a foreign or alien presence in the world. So this is the same kind of narrative that's been given over and over and over again. Meanwhile, something else is going on behind the scenes that we know very little about. We need to know some things about it. So there's a way to do that now, and I'd like to talk about that with you this evening. So the process of disclosure, once again, is being stalled with the government, eating up valuable time and focus with little success. It's probably aimed at people who don't know anything about it, or have never looked into it, and so they can be easily dissuaded. But for people who have been looking into this for a long time, have done my research on it, it's pretty insulting, actually. An insult to our intelligence. So we need disclosure to some degree. We need to know who is in our world and what they're doing and what it means. To not know that is very dangerous. They are not visitors. They are planting themselves in our world, and they're working behind our backs. And what they're doing with people and against people is very, very serious and dire. And they're not revealing anything about their activities. So here we are, we're also stuck on the surface of our world. We don't know anything about life in the universe, except that there is life in the universe, which is pretty obvious. We calculate that through astronomical means to indicate that there are habitable worlds out there. We can see the signature of habitability in other worlds through very advanced science. And certainly to think we're alone in the universe is pretty ridiculous. But we know very little about the interactions of life around us in the universe, so what's going on beyond our world. We're certainly not isolated if we have so much visitation taking place. We've been watched for a long time. We've been broadcasting out into space for over 100 years, through radio and television and other media, really telling anyone who wants to watch us everything about us, giving ourselves away to the universe, the local universe around us. So they certainly know our behavior, our attitudes, our destructiveness, the damage we're doing to the world, the damage we do to each other. And certainly that would give them a very poor image of who we are and what we are in the world. And we're also degrading a world that is very valuable to others, because worlds such as ours are probably extremely rare in the universe, the barren planets. And our world is magnificent by all accounts. And we're destroying it. We're ruining it. We're ruining its habitability, the diversity of life, changing its climate, which will come to haunt us in the future. But beyond that, we don't know what's going on beyond our shores. So this opens the possibility that there are other observers in the universe around us or near our world, not in our world, but near our world, who have been observing this alien presence and could actually present to us insights that we couldn't understand otherwise about who is here, what they're doing, and what their game plan is, which should be much more obvious to a discrete neutral observer, for example, but not so obvious to us. I mean, after 80 years of UFO research, we still can only get past we can't get past the first question. The first question, are we being visited? Yes, yes, yes. What does it mean? Well, nobody's quite sure. How should we respond? Nobody's quite sure. So 80 years of UFO research, for the most part, has not taken us deep enough into what we need to know about what's happening in our world and around our world. So there could be neutral observers out there, there could be spies, there could be whistleblowers, there could be allies of humanity, there could be governing bodies beyond our world or beyond our understanding of who's overseeing what's going on in the world and perhaps putting limitations on those forces who are here as to what they can and cannot do. These things could really help us and begin to fill out the picture. And our perception of it is always tainted or conditioned by what we want from it. We want this to be a good thing. We want this to be something that's beneficial for humanity. We want it to give us technology or give us wisdom or show us how to live or even help us repair our planet. So when we imbue that with human ambition, human desire, and human need, then the picture becomes really more a portrait of ourselves than it is a portrait of who they are. So there's a tremendous amount of confusion and I think complicating factors that are making the picture a lot more complex than it needs to be. So I believe that this foreign neutral observers is actually a real thing. And I have been a party to it over a long period of time. And what it has given me through a series of 4 briefings, given over a 19-year period between 1997 and 2016, has given me and those who have read these briefings a very clear idea that can answer all the fundamental questions we need to know about this phenomenon and how we should respond to it, and how we can offset their presence in the world today, which is almost never discussed and is generally unknown. So I would like to bring this into focus now because it is a rare thing that we are given this gift, given that we cannot know what is going on beyond our world in terms of the interaction of races, how they function with each other, against each other, or compete with each other. And we have this opportunity from a group they call themselves the Allies of Humanity. The Allies of Humanity. They are not present in our world, they're only observing from afar. They make it clear that humanity is not ready for contact. We don't have the species maturity. We're really not grown up enough or organized or united enough to be able to deal with contact in a beneficial and positive way. And because of this, we're unable to tell friend from foe, even though that can be discerned by the evidence of the activities of those present in the world. This group seeks only to warn and advise. They will not intervene, saying that it's up to us to defend our planet if we're ever going to grow up and become its stewards, if we're going to have the chance to become a free race in a universe where actually freedom is fairly rare. So they tell us things that, well, we never would assume perhaps or think on our own, but it's a really important document, a gift to humanity that is being shared openly now in the world on the internet. And I think it will hold a real key to understanding who is here, what they're doing, and what their overall purpose is, and how we should respond and counteract their activities. This could bypass everything the government isn't telling us. And there's no sign the government is going to reveal more than it has. The deeper government. When I say deeper, I don't mean the elected officials. I'm not talking about people that we see on television every night. I'm talking about people who are very, very underground and have tremendous power and wealth available to them to carry on their activities. So we need this awareness, and we need to build human unity, which is now breaking down increasingly in a world as humanity is now competing for resources and the world is being divided by powerful political and military activities and conflicts. If this continues, we will never be able to emerge into this universe as a free and sovereign race. We're too disunified. We're too at odds with each other. We don't understand our vulnerabilities to space or what kind of responsibilities we have to assume to be the wise and consistent stewards of this world, which is our home world, our world of origin. I think these briefings could be of great assistance now as disclosure stalls from the government once again. It's happened over and over again. We have a way to get to the truth about the NHI presence because it's the NHI disclosure that's the most important. We could be beating on the door of the government to just tell us what they know, and if they don't tell us, then we still don't know. And human speculation is not filled in that gap with any kind of clear picture that I've seen. Some people have come to pretty clear understandings on their own, but generally, collectively, we're still very much in the fog about this. And we have our own desires and preferences regarding it. The Alleys of Humanity briefings, in my view, is a gift to the people. It's not being a gift to the governments. They not only disclose and confirm the reality of the intervention, but also why the public are needed to confront the alien presence in the world today. Because if the public knows nothing, then they can't support a government that wants to do something about it. So the breakdown here in communication between the government and the people is actually very dangerous for our future. So the solution to this dilemma is not only at the government level. The alien intervention has been highly involved with the public. For over 80 years, it's been taking people against their will, kidnapping them, subjecting them to very cruel procedures, and using them in an interbreeding program to create hybrid humans that can be the future leaders of humanity, who have the body of a human and the mind of an alien, basically, or are so programmed by this genetic manipulation that they really will only serve those from beyond us, but can still survive in our world and walk among us basically unrecognized. Sounds incredible, unbelievable, but you have to think outside the box when you're going to deal with this subject, because it is incredible. It's not a human universe out there. It's not limited by human science or human logic, or certainly not human understanding. So the reason this has gone so unseen is that people either don't want to look at it or deal with it, or it's just so fantastic that they can't even conceive of it once it becomes known to them. So I believe that the 4 sets of briefings represents an authentic communication from an off-planet source who could provide for us what we could not otherwise recognize or understand regarding the alien presence in the world. And they also give us the steps to take in preventing the intervention from continuing to take place. How would we stop this? I've never heard that discussed in any circles of UFO research, either in the public or, of course, I don't sit in councils and government, so I can't speak of that. But this is a problem for humanity now, all of humanity. This force is non-military. Its power is the power of persuasion. The power can control how people think, what people feel, can manipulate people's perception. And once it takes people against their will, it has control over them. And then you have a public that doesn't want to deal with it. I don't want to know about that. You know, we hear these amazing accounts of how many people think or actually believe we've been visited, and they're remarkable. 50%, 60% of people think we've been visited. But no one wants to know any more than that. It's like, I don't want to go there. So we have a world in denial that's breaking down environmentally, socially, politically, economically. We're in a series of breakdowns. We're hitting a crisis point with each passing year. And this hidden presence just gets stronger and stronger in the world. So I believe these briefings offer us a window into our local universe in the most simple and prosaic terms, a practical approach to what we're really dealing with. So I'm making this available to people to explore for themselves, to come to their own conclusions. To me, it creates a very clear picture, and it fills in the questions that we've been asking for a long time and have not been able to answer. So we can continue to bang on the door, the iron gate of the inner government for disclosure, and be put off again and again, and discouraged again and again, and angered again and again. But the disclosure we need really has to be about the non-human intelligence itself. And who in the world can do that? The government could do that, but won't. And may not ever. We've had 80 years of lying to the public, 80 years of concealing the truth, 80 years of destroying people's credentials or their careers, people who tried to, discover this or find out about it. It's got a long history of bad behavior associated with this. So we need to know who's in our world, what they're doing, their activities, their purpose, and how we can respond to them effectively. And I believe the briefings opens the door to all those things. It doesn't answer every question we might have. It's not going to tell us about their technology or their propulsion. It's not going to tell us all we want to know about other galaxies or anything like that, because that's not really our need. We're the native peoples of the world facing intervention that will not disclose itself. But we know from our own history, from our own natural history, our own history of human civilization, what intervention means for the native peoples, without exception. So that becomes the starting point in how we should look at this. Anyone who's in our world not disclosing who they are, what they're doing, certainly not be trusted. And we certainly have to take a very cautious and defensive approach to that phenomenon and to them. Also, if you look at natural history, you have species-to-species competition, which is a major way that life has evolved on planet Earth, particularly with the most advanced species on a planet. One can displace the other, and this is exactly what happens in natural history. They don't coexist. One displaces the other. One becomes predominant, the other begins to diminish, decline, and goes extinct. So I believe we're in a species-to-species contact at this point, because the world is so valuable, and we are the ignorant, violent natives who are degrading it. It has brought intervention to our shores. This intervention values us only insofar as we're useful to it, because they cannot live here. They cannot live in the biological density, the biological hazard of our world. And they need us to serve them, to work for them, certainly, but only under their control, in a very different world than the world we see today. So I share this with you as an invitation. I share it as a warning. I share it as something that is the biggest thing in the world today. It's probably the biggest thing in all of human history, is our engagement with life in the universe as it's really happening. Not as we would love it to be or we imagine it to be, not like our movies. No race is going to come and save us because we're so important in the universe. I mean, you just have to let go of that. We are not important in the universe. We may be important to God because we have a certain degree of freedom in our world, which is rare. I believe we are. But in the universe, we're just the unruly natives that are standing in the way of other nations. However, we still control the ground, and we still have control over the world, or these briefings would not have been given. If it was a done deal, if it was over, some people say it's over, we are hopeless, can't defend ourselves, these briefings would never be given. They tell us exactly how we defend ourselves. This is a non-military force. They can only be here with our acquiescence. If they don't have our permission, they need our acquiescence. And they can legally be here, given the rules of engagement in this part of the universe, which we, of course, know nothing about, which is revealed in the Alice briefings. If we show displeasure, if we show resistance, eventually they will have to withdraw. They can't win us over without our compliance. This is not an invasion by force. It's an invasion by persuasion and inducement. And already around the world there are gatherings of people who are thrilled with the idea that alien technology is going to save us, and they're going to teach us how to live in peace, and they're going to give us higher levels of spirituality. It's all human wishes, human desire. It's not what's happening. So this is very sober stuff, and it's very important. If you care about your life and the world you live in, this is something I recommend you really look into. And this is a gift from beyond that can help us to finally understand, after 80 years of UFO research and 80 years of government obfuscation and denial, something of the greatest importance for our life now and for our future. Thank you.